Hello and welcome to All For United with me, John Foster, MUFC. A massive show today. The script has completely out the window with what we had planned. We'll still do the questions and answers, of course. We've spent a lot of time doing that, but maybe just not as many. Two massive pieces of news come out today, which we've got to open the show with. So we'll get the thoughts of Matt and Jake today. Matt, how are you doing, mate?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks, John. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Just come back from work, so obviously I know I spoke to you on my lunch break and it had all kicked off and I didn't even realise, but we've got loads to get into. Jake, how are you doing, mate?
I'm okay, thanks. It's been a while, but here we are.
It has been a while, and just before we get on to everything that's scrolling along the bottom, I think the last time we was on the show together was back in November, Jake, I think it was. I think Sarah was on the show as well at the same time.
Yeah.
How have you been since November? And also, what do you think of United's form going into Christmas and then coming out of Christmas?
Yeah, it really has been a while, November, hasn't it? Time flies. But yeah, United's form going into Christmas, brilliant. You know, we were sitting pretty at the top. We were doing really well. And I don't want to turn this into a negative, but since then it's been shaky. But I think it's similar to what we saw last season. To be fair, you know, coming back after into the new year, it's a bit hit and miss, but they like to keep us guessing. I think that the best this season is still yet to come.
Well, do you think that the international break has come at a good time for United? Because I actually do on this occasion. I think we needed that break just to kind of clear our heads and just basically just look at the final running now, just as a separate kind of mini season.
In a way, yeah. I mean, Katie said it herself. It'd be good to just sort of get the players together and work with them. And you know, she wasn't losing a lot of players. Okay, she's lost, you know, Kirsty Hanson, Jane Ross. I think Hayley Ladd went to the Wales camp, and then obviously you had Tooney and Mill go to England. But the bulk of the squad is still there to work with. I think. Oh, sorry, Kristen to the US as well. I can't leave out Kristen. But the bulk of the squad is still there for Casey to work with. So I think these few weeks will be vital for regrouping, for trying new things and getting back on track.
Yeah. And how do you feel about that, Matt? Obviously, we spoke about the international break coming at a good time, but I think that's just a distant memory now, and that's exactly what we needed. That Man City and that little poor run of form that we had, it really does seem like a distant memory with everything that's gone on with the contract extensions and the international break and what we'll talk about shortly as well. To me, it's just what we needed. Let's draw a line under the sand and let's look at the last few games of the season.
Yeah, I think you've hit it sort of spot on there, hit the nail on the head for me. I think it's one of them people sort of don't always like international breaks. And I think sometimes, obviously, I mean, it's difficult like now when we can't go and watch, if we wanted to watch an international game like we normally may do. But yeah, I think, you know, in terms of that bad sort of run of form, injuries as well had hit, you know, a couple of small knocks as well. I think it came at a perfect time to just regroup, give the players some time off, go again, analyse where we went wrong, because I know Casey's big on analysis when she's sort of got the internationals and there's more one-to-one sort of work and, you know, improvements and things like that. And I think, yeah, just go again now for Villa next weekend.
Look, I want to get on to the breaking news, but I just want to shout out a couple of people in the comments. John, just read your message, mate. Hope you're okay. No doubt we'll catch up shortly. And another Chelsea supporter in the comments as well. I believe that you joined on the last week's show as well. I recognise your name, so thank you for coming back. Right. So I was on my lunch break, going through a few little group chats, and missed a few messages and some breaking news from. I read it on Twitter from Adam Millington. He was the guy that tweeted it out. Matt, please speak to us about what we've missed today regarding Vilda Bo-Risa.
Yeah, so probably say, like you said, about dinner time, maybe just after. I first saw it was a lot of Norwegian journalists that popped up. So I saw that before. Obviously, Adam had tweeted, and then Adam and a few others have gone into more detail. But yeah, I said Vilda Bo-Risa, defensive midfielder, can also play central midfield, so a bit of both really. Box to box as well, great pass with the ball, very physical as well. So it's kind of, for me, I'd say probably back up to Hayley Ladd. But that said, I think we will, if Hayley's on the pitch at the same time, I think for me we'll see a sort of central midfield, like I said, box to box, puts herself about. She's played Champions League. She was last at Swedish side Göteborg. Obviously, they released everybody and then got some money into sponsor to carry on. So, yeah, I mean, she scored past City in the Champions League recently, so that's always a nice thing and a bonus. We love a bit of that. So fingers crossed she can kind of repeat that. And with being a free signing, she can start straight away. We think she'll be ready for Arsenal. There's a couple of bits to iron out in terms of contracts and that, but I believe she's either on her way over or she might have even arrived here in the last few days, which was kind of, a bit more news than we'd sort of heard this afternoon. So, yeah, exciting times, competition for places. I think it's great that we've got competition for Hayley. And, yeah, can only go onwards now with that signing.
55 people watching, so please hit the thumbs up. We've got our competition halfway through the show as well, so please stick around for that one. Look, completely caught me off guard when I saw that. It looks like that we're doing business early. Contract extensions with Hayley Ladd earlier in the week, and there's been a few. I said that Kirsty Hansen at the start of the year, and I'm sure there's more. Obviously, Mary Earps, who we'll move on to a little bit soon, shortly. But it really looks like that things are getting done, and Casey's waiting till the summer, and it just makes me think now, what is the plan for the summer then? Because if we're getting these things done early, what's the plan for the summer? It's going to be quite active, it may be. That's what I'm thinking anyway. Jake, what was your first thoughts of the news about what looks like a new signing?
Yeah, well, I've only seen it today, if I'm completely honest with you, but I know she's a key part of the Norway team. I've seen a little bit of her in action. Yeah, as Matt said, someone who will really improve the team. And also, I think she really freshens up the midfield, because there's been times this season when you thought, maybe he needs a bit more pressure on, the likes of Jackie, Katie, even Tooney, you could say, in the midfield. Although saying that, Tooney's been probably the best of the three goals-wise.
Yeah.
But Risa she isn't a natural goal scorer. She is, as Matt said, defensive midfielder. So bit of stability, maybe a good partner for Hayley Ladd from sitting back. Yeah, exciting times. It's hard to predict with the midfielder how it's going to go, because she could go forward, she could go back a bit more. For example, you look at Jackie. She was a big signing. She came back after scoring in the World Cup, but she has done a lot more defensively than I thought she would. So yeah, very exciting times to sign a midfielder. I think she's going to have a lot of stability and a lot of competition.
I think he raises a lot of questions as well. I mean, there's comments about potentially, Katie Zellem's now just been mentioned there. Is it a replacement for Katie? And we've got Robert Kenton, thanks for joining us, mate, saying Jackie, Bosa, Hayley as a midfield three, or Engen. Obviously, Engen now has been branded and around since January time. Could it just be potentially just the fact that we haven't got anyone to stand in for Hayley Ladd? Or could it be, if we are in Europe next season and we need to play a bit more defensive, do we just need like a double pivot that's a bit more stronger than what we've got now? So maybe not attacking wise, but just to maybe shore up the centre back situation maybe as well. So potentially just have two holding centre midfielders who are probably less creative but more protective, against like the Leons, for example. It could be to do with that, couldn't it? I mean, Matt, would you think that you would come straight into the start 11, or was just more of a standby for Hayley Ladd?
I think in terms of coming in straight away, I'm going to say no, and that's only because I think they fold November time, Göteborg, and I think she's been training since sort of end of November to now, which is 3 months. And obviously, training is brilliant in your fitness, but I think your training and games are completely different. You can train all day long, but I think give her a couple of weeks maybe. Get herself up to speed, get to know people. It's a different environment. You're coming over to a different country, different league. But yeah, no, exciting. You've both touched on it, and sort of, cover. I'd say cover for Hayley. I've always said without Hayley on the field, we just seem to massively fall apart. And I think if if Hayley goes off injured or gets sent off or whichever, or we just need to make a change due to tiredness. I think it's a good option to have. I believe as well. So I'm told she'd turned down Real Madrid and she'd turned down Lyon. And Lyon, for me, the best team in the world. So this is somebody that's a United fan that genuinely wants to be here. Has been pushing to be here since we started. It was only because we were in the Championship that, it wasn't possible. But now I think, pushing for the Champions League, pushing for competition for places. And I think for me, it's a big positive. So I'm excited for this. Whether she replaces, the players like people have talked about, who knows? But that's what we want, a competitive squad. Like you said, we're going to be coming into Champions League. We're going to be coming up against some of the best attackers in the world. So I think, like you said, John, we might need to play 2 pivots. Personally, I'm not a fan, but that's because at the moment, to be fair, we've got an attacking midfielder playing that position next to Haley, which doesn't work. So, 2 defensive midfielders, who knows?
Absolutely, yeah. Nat, just a bit of a shout out to you in the comments there. Hopefully see you next week. Look, she's named some players, of course, even Navarro, Engen and Bunny Shaw. Maybe that's the plan for the summer. Get a couple in now and a couple in for later. Loads of comments. I can't read them all. There's so many coming through. So just bear with me, guys. This is a bit of a questions and answers show. So we put a tweet out a couple of days ago, I think, just to ask what you guys want to talk about tonight. Obviously, we didn't realise that Mary Earp's contract extension and what looks like a new signing was all going to happen today. So before we move on to those questions, because we do want to touch on them, Jake, over to yourself regarding Mary Earp's extension.
Yeah, great news. Mary, she is a top keeper, I will say. You look at the goalkeepers in the WSL. I think she is one of the best keepers in there. She's great shot stopper. When you need to do something, she will do it. When called upon, she's there. She's kept quite a few clean sheets for us. She's been unlucky at times this season. She's conceded a few goals that are simply just wonder strikes. You think back to the City game. You think back to the Reading game as well, when the goals she conceded, she couldn't do a lot about. But yeah, she's very loud, very vocal on the pitch. Someone with WSL experience. She's had a decent first season. This season's been good as well for her. I think we haven't seen the best of Mary yet. I think that's what we're most excited about. Like, obviously, she'll want to push back into the England squad definitely as well. That's a massive thing, a massive goal for her. And I think United for her is the right place for her to be. She's first choice at the moment. First team football at a team that's competing at the highest level. It's good for her. It's good for us, and it works both ways. So I'm delighted to have her on board for at least another 2 years. Yeah.
A shout out to Rodney in the comments. Nice to see you, mate. Thank you very much for popping on. Well, you said something there about maybe we haven't seen the best of Earth yet. Do you think that's potentially because our back four may not have either been settled or as good as they could have been? Do you think maybe next season we'll make that extra signing and have a bit more stability in front of her, or a bit more solidness? Do you reckon that would see the best of Mary Earps?
Possibly. I mean, for every goalkeeper, no matter how good they are, they've got to have a good backline in front of them. Otherwise, the frailties will be exposed, unfortunately. And Mary's made a few mistakes this season, but look, what goalkeeper hasn't? I think Maria, she's just come in. We've not seen a lot of her. Move her into the middle, we might see something different, because she did well at Chelsea when she was a regular this season. Not great basis to go on because she spent a lot of time on the bench, but when she was a regular at Chelsea, they didn't concede much. She played a key part in keeping clean sheets for them. So I think Maria, Millie, I think our defenders at the moment are good enough to bring out the best in Mary, 100%. But yeah, you don't know how these things are going to go. But every player in the back line and the goalkeeper themselves has to be alert.
We'll talk more about the centre backs with one of the questions a little bit later. Marie in the comments says that Mary is steady, but potentially have a different goalkeeper for the Champions League, and that's a good point. Just because we've got Mary Earps for another couple of seasons, it doesn't mean that she's going to be our number one. So maybe if there is a goalkeeper out there, maybe Casey has got her eye on someone. I'm not saying that obviously that's what we want, but there are some fans out there that potentially wants to see Mary with competition. And it'll be interesting to see what Zoe and Andy say on next week's show. Two massive fans of Mary Earps, and they're going to be on. And I can't wait. I can't wait for that episode, to be honest. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Just because she signed an extension, it doesn't necessarily mean that she's going to be number one, does it? But what's your thoughts on that one, Matt?
Can I do? Well, I'm going to add something in here. So obviously the comment was about new keeper for Champions League. That's fine. Can I just add though, Mary did play Champions League. So the first season I saw Mary was 14-15. That's the first season I watched. She was at Bristol Academy and they played Barcelona. She was in goal. and Bristol won from memory. So I think, competition's great. Competition's fine. I'd love to see competition. I mentioned this morning about, Sophie Bagley of Bristol. If Bristol were down, that's somebody I'd be snatching in summer on a free for, sort of to push Mary for that number 1 spot. But, kind of like Jake said, solid enough. I think for me, she's probably had a better season than last season, to be fair. Like I said, okay, couple of mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. The defence hasn't been brilliant. But I think with a settled back 4, because let's not forget, we've had both right backs injured various points of the season, both Smithy and Martha. We've got Ona, who absolutely fantastic, but again, being honest, she's not a left back. So whether we bring in somebody there, again, I think just once we get a settled side, and I think the point Jake made about Maria in the centre, I think potentially we could see her with Millie and put Amy T at right back. Amy's something up, she's solid enough. So, rotate with Kirsty, I don't know, and keep Ona as she is. I really don't know, but I think if we can get Maria in the team and still have both Turners in plus Ona, then I think for me we're doing fantastic there. But like you said, obviously big show Thursday, more detail. But for me, I was delighted that she's staying with us for 2 years minimum, and there's an option of a 3rd year. So who knows? Let's see where it takes us.
I think that's interesting what you just said there about potentially playing Amy back at right back, not because we want to separate Turner and Turner, not at all, but it would be a way to get Maria in. But what I would also say is then we definitely need to sign another centre back over the summer, because then that's 3 centre backs playing. If one of them was injured, it's we need to bolster that, which wouldn't change anything because we still need that 4 centre back in my eyes anyway. Right, we're going to move on to a few Twitter questions. We've had quite a few sent to us when we put that tweet out, so thank you to everybody for interacting and responding. So we're going to try and rattle through them, and we'll all try and give our opinions on them. They're all quite easy questions, and I can see a few questions in the comments, so we'll try and do them as quick as we can. Before we do that, Matt, the Twitter account that we've got, do you just want to explain to a few people what they can see on the All For United women's page, and also what we've got lined up in the forthcoming weeks?
Yeah, sure. So obviously, every Tuesday now, 8 p.m, we're going to be doing a Twitter live. So again, just various topics. Hoping to get a few guests on as well. But that's, like I say, every Tuesday, unless the men are playing, and then the day will change. But there's always going to be, Twitter live, 8 p.m. throughout the week. Obviously, we've got our 2 YouTube shows as well. Planning shows, not just obviously United based, but as well trying to involve other clubs as well. So, whether you're a fan from another team, come and get involved. And yes, looking good. I'm hoping that we can push more shows, whether that be more Twitter lives or YouTube lives. This week, a busy week lined up as well. Some great topics, some great guests. I know you've got Rahul booked in as well for some analysis. So, yeah, it's just about really just pushing the women's game out there, especially whilst we can't get in, and just sort of keeping everybody connected. And, we always welcome feedback from you guys, and we enjoy seeing the same people, watching us every week, and we've had lots of great feedback. So, yeah, as far as All For United and we're concerned, keep it coming and keep supporting us.
Yeah, well said. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, don't forget your show, Matt, with Ben. Well, on
tomorrow.
Ben's channel, but yes, tomorrow, isn't it? Yeah.
Tomorrow. Yeah, so 8 p.m. Myself and Ben are reliving the 2018-19 championship winning season. It's just nice and casual, fun, relaxed show. Just lots of memories, lots of laughs, because that was it's one of my favourites anyway. I don't know about Ben. But absolutely loved season 1. So yeah, come and join us tomorrow. I think he's going to put out the link on the All For United page as well. So it'll be, I'll retweet it, pick it up on the socials, and it'll be good to see everybody 8 p.m. tomorrow. Right
then, let's move on to the Twitter question. Jake, we'll start off with yourself. So Rahul, who watches this show, is a Man City fan. He's been on the show. He's asked, who's the most underrated players at the moment, this season at Man United? So let you answer first. I think a few of us might think the same, but do you want to give your answer first on that one, Jake?
Yeah. Now, I don't know if underrated is the right word, but I'm going to say Ona Bhatia, because she doesn't score goals, she doesn't win games in the sense of scoring and assisting and everything, because she's a fullback at the end of the day. However, she's been amazing. She's taken to this league like a duck to water. She's been our best defender, I will say quite confidently. Any challenge she's faced, she's matched wingers all the way. She's brilliant going forward as well. Brilliant when linking up with Leah down the left. So yeah, from what I've seen so far of Honor, she's going to be something special. This is only the beginning for her.
Yeah, she has. I mean, everyone on this show, whether it be a rival fan, a journalist, or one of us fans, we've all said how well Honor has been and how well Honor has done and settled. Also, I think Natalie or somebody might have mentioned it last week. I can't remember who it was, unfortunately. It was on the show, and they made a good point. To me, Galton or Heath should be player of the season so far. However, with them both being out for the rest of the season or close to the rest of the season, Honor will be playing more games. There's a chance there that Honor could be our player of the season this year. Now, I appreciate she's up against Jackie and Tooney as well in my eyes, but it's not a bad shout, mate. I think it's still a few games left to go, so maybe Honor could actually be the player of the season. Hayley Ladd's on the screen. That's probably my choice. I think last season she probably stood out more, but that's because there's so many players this season who's done so well for me. But when you talk about underrated, no one ever really praises a CDM, do they? So for me, when it comes to underrated, I'm going to say Hayley Ladd. But what do you think, Matt?
I'd agree, but I'm going to talk about somebody else and throw another name into the mix. I'm going to say this season, Jackie. I think, last season was, it was one of them where I think she was settling in. But this season, absolutely brilliant. I think you can clearly see she's, gone away and worked on a lot over the summer and, during lockdown. I think we've really kind of reaped the rewards with that. I mean, it started off Chelsea. She was benched. She came on sort of the right of a 3 second half and changed the game for me. And I think it's weird because I'm still seeing people questioning her now after games and on Twitter. And I'm trying to think, she's not really had like what I'd say is a terrible game. I think she's been, brilliant in that midfield. She's worked. I mean, we know, she always chases and presses and works hard. Obviously, people are still saying, oh, well, she doesn't score in this. But if you look, really, that's not really, I'd say, her role. I mean, great if she pops up with a goal like she did for Holland, but I'd chuck Jackie's name out there. I think massive. Her Tooney Hayley has been that midfield 3, and that's been huge this season for me.
It has, and the fact that Katie was off with COVID, everyone kind of really stood out, and she couldn't get back into the team up until about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Could she?
Yeah.
So, and that's only because Tooney ended up going out wide and a few changes there. So it shows how good all 3 of those have done to keep the captain out for the team. Next question is from Monkeys _ United. I know they appear on the in the comments as well, so thank you. Is the poor performance due to Tobin Heath being injured? I think that's probably part of it. I think, in my opinion, there is a bit more to it, but I think either they mentioned it or somebody else mentioned it. We were still winning games with the other injuries that we had, but as soon as Tobin got injured, we started losing the games. I think Tobin was a massive miss, but whether or not it's just down to her and her leadership, I wouldn't put it just down to that, because I think it's just got to a point where we had so many injuries. I think players were fatigued mentally and physically, but it's definitely a reason, probably not the sole reason. Jake, obviously Tobin Heath, a massive miss. Would you put our poor performances as of late down to Tobin not playing?
Partially. Now, look, I'm not one of these people who will sort of worship one player and say they're the reason for this, they're the reason for that. But when Tobin got injured, it exposed us. It exposed us in some ways, definitely. You look at we'll take the last 2 games for example, where we haven't scored, where we conceded 5 goals. On paper, that sounds terrible, but we've struggled in attack. We've definitely struggled without her. I hate to say we're too reliant on her because she might not be here next season. That is the cold hard truth. So yeah, she's been a massive impact. She's scored some great goals for us and just been a brilliant influence going forward. So without her, yeah, I do worry slightly. But at the same time, you can't put all the blame on that. each player needs to look at themselves and know that they haven't been good enough these last 2 games, and they need to bounce back. Defense isn't Tobin's region. Defense we've been weak, we've been shaky. Midfield has been. I'll be honest, we've been in disarray in midfield, especially against City. We completely lost the midfield battle, but I like to think that we're bouncing back. We're bouncing back.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about the positives again in a few weeks, because those 2 games, I think we've seen the worst of the team. Surely the only way is up.
Yeah, I think so as well. And I was very deflated after that City loss. But I don't know if I said it on air or just before we came onto the show. To me, that we've kind of, to me, I think we just kind of got rid of that mentality now that we was down that downhill spiral. I think this international break is just what we needed. So yeah, to me, I think it's all over with now. We've got Aston Villa, the game that we should be winning, and then the big one against Arsenal right after that. So for me, yeah, I think that's in the past now. There was a question. There was something that Rodney put on. I think Rodney's just agreeing with yourself, Matt, regarding Jackie. The fact that she doesn't get the goals, kind of, maybe people don't see what she does, I guess, or some people do, but some people don't. Next question from Natalie. She's very confident in us getting Europe, so much so that she's actually got a passport ready. Is she right to be confident? That's what she's asking. Is she right to be overconfident? Come to you first, Matt, on this one.
Confident in Europe, yes. I'd say anything else, I think for me now, sadly, I think the league's gone. I know Nat was up there in January. Oh, yeah, we're going to win the league and all this and all that. But, yeah, I think for me now, those 3 losses have just hurt that massively. I think now, for me, yes, I think Europe, and again, I'm going back to August. I said, 3rd place. I know we did our show about have we sort of, got high expectations off the back of that good run. But I truly believe 3rd is doable, and I link back to sort of why is that I think our squad in recent weeks and the reasons for these losses, we've been 1 short of leadership and 2 short of depth, because them injuries have killed us to 4 key players. And I think, something that Arsenal are lacking at the moment is depth. They've got 3 or 4 kids on the bench because they've got players out and players unhappy, and it's absolutely crippling them. Okay, they've got games in hand on us, but I still think even if they win those 2, I still think we are 3 points clear still. I'd have to check that. But no, I'm confident. I think Arsenal for us is the only game where we've got to look at carefully in these next lot of fixtures. But, Nat's right to be confident. I think all the games left are winnable. Arsenal may be the small sticky patch, but other than that, I'm looking at those fixtures and there's nothing I sit there and fear. So, yeah, no, get your passport, get your flip-flops, get your sun cream, make sure you've had your jabs, and let's go.
Yeah, I agree. There's a few comments on screen from our Chelsea fans who I agree with. To be honest, I think if we did have that fire that we had against Chelsea, we would have picked something up against City. But to me, we were just on the bottom of that spiral. So I think that was always going to happen. And yeah, we have got the points on the board. I think we're not 9 points behind. They got 2 games in hand, but we still need to play them. But I think they've got a better goal average. So. But there's still a long way to go yet. I think that the saving grace is I don't think Arsenal will go on to win every game. So that's just from what we've seen at the moment. So I think that is a bit of a saving grace there. We'll move on because we've still got loads of questions to get through. 135 Not Out has asked. That's a great name. And they always comment on our Twitter, by the way. I don't know if they watch us on YouTube, or I don't know what your username is on YouTube, but you're always on our Twitter. So thank you for that. Just asking, why did we suddenly go into poor form? Jake, we'll move on to you on this one. Was it just down to injuries, or what do you think?
I don't think injury is a valid excuse, just because you look at the start of the season when we couldn't even name a full bench, but that didn't stop us. But yeah, I mentioned it at the start, last season we had a very similar downturn in form at this time of the year, January, February time. So it honestly feels like a sense of deja vu. It really does, but it's hard to pinpoint it. Maybe a lack of confidence since Tobin got injured. It just, I can't put it down to one thing, but the play's been sloppy at times. The defense has looked shaky, and maybe other teams are starting to just pick out those little bits, those little cracks, if you like, and exploiting them. So yeah. it's hard to pinpoint it to one thing, but I think it's a mix of everything. Belief, maybe the injuries slightly, but definitely not solely injuries, and just not being tight and not being decisive enough when we need to be.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, going into the Chelsea game that we lost, to lose against Chelsea, it's not like the end of the world. But then the Reading one, that one completely took me by surprise. But that was the first game really this season where we lost where we shouldn't have lost. Whereas last season we was making those mistakes quite a lot, and we hadn't seen those mistakes almost before. Going into this season or throughout this season. But then the Man City game, losing to Man City again isn't the end of the world, especially away from home. But again, it's the way that we lost it, isn't it? And yeah, injuries definitely played a part. If we didn't have those injuries, you can guarantee that we'd still be in a title race. Whether or not we'd be at the top, I don't know, but we'd still have a few more points on the board. I'm pretty sure of that. Matt, your thoughts on the reasons behind our poor performance in the last few weeks?
Do you know, there's a comment down there, players dropping form hasn't helped. And I'd agree, after that City game, I was, not best pleased, shall we say. We'll keep it non-sweary. And yeah, I just, there was something about it where certain standards for me weren't met by certain players. I mean, collectively overall, it was poor, but sort of, players dropping form, I'd agree. I think there's some of them players out there that are a lot better than how they've performed. And, like we keep saying, everybody makes mistakes. But I think there comes a time where, I'm reading stats and reading something like 30-40% of passes completed. I'm thinking 30-40% of successful passes for, a top 3, top 4 team isn't really great in my view. And I think, again, like I touched on a few minutes ago, a lack of leadership. Captain's not on the field. Cool, that's fine, not a problem. Who else is then stepping up? I can hear Mary, but who else is saying, that's not good enough, it's poor. And at the time, we had Tobin, which, okay, like you said, not her alone. It's not her fault that we're losing. But there's a lack of leaders and there's a lack of, I don't know, responsibility maybe in certain players. I think, it's like step up, take ownership, take responsibility. And, I think after the City game, I think it was only Millie and Jackie came out and said, not good enough by our standards. Both got absolutely slated for it, but at least, I credit to Jackie. She was absolutely honest and said, we're better than that. We need to, switch on. And I think there is, we've seen mainly defensive mistakes this year. It's been our own doing, most of the defeats. And I think, it's uncharacteristic of those players, whether it's tiredness, whether it's, lack of leadership. And at times you just need to dig deep. You need somebody to drag you through it, captain or no captain, that's going to be like, right, come on, we're better than this, let's get going. And I think just them 2 goals against Reading so quick just killed us. There was nobody in there organising and saying, right, come on, you pick up her, you watch this, you do that. And, leadership's massive, whether it comes to me captain, whether it comes from 2 or 3 other players, or whether it's coming, from the manager.
Yeah, I agree with that 100% there, Matt. I don't want to harp on that subject because I think it's over with now. I think our bad form is gone, so I think we'll move on. CUCHOX has asked on Twitter, how important is the Arsenal game and will a draw be good enough? I think I think it's a massive game. I thought the Man City game was massive and I thought the Reading game was massive as well. And now I think the Arsenal game will be massive as well. I think because there'll be teams that still drop points from now to the end of the season, I don't think it's the be all and end all. But I think it means a lot more to Arsenal. I think if Arsenal lose that game, then I think it kind of puts them out of contention. That's just my thoughts on it, especially if we win Aston Villa after the return of the international break. So potentially a draw will be good enough, but it's definitely a massive game. Jake, what are your thoughts on that game? We play Aston Villa first and then we play Arsenal. It's a massive one, isn't it?
It is. It's the one that stands out to everyone. But I've got to say, it's not like a cup final. It's not like a case of win and we're in the Champions League, lose and we're not, because both teams could slip up against the other teams they have still to play. Okay, yes, we've got a run in without any of the other big teams now. Having played Reading twice and having played City and Chelsea twice, but we can still slip up. I hate to be negative like that, but let's not sit here under the illusion that we're going to beat every other team. because it's this league throws up a surprise sometimes. I mean, look, Chelsea lost to Brighton the other week. These things happen. Strange results can happen sometimes. So yeah, we need to stay focused. I think Everton last game of the season, can't even take that for granted. They could turn up on the day and throw a spanner in the works. So
yeah,
exactly. But, yeah, the Arsenal game's big. I don't think it's massive. I'll say it's a big game, but there's still a lot of the season to go after that. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, I think that's the sensible answer, isn't it, really? Yeah. Marie in the comments say that she will take a draw. Do you guys think that Millie Turner is carrying a bit of fatigue? I don't know if it's fatigue. I don't know what it is. I think it's just a lack of concentration in a couple of games, to be honest. I don't know if that's fatigue. I don't think it's necessarily fatigue. But that's just my opinion there. Next question is from Helen. Do you think Casey will go to a back three now that she's bought Maria? I'm going to drop in something here. That rhymes there. I'm going to drop something in. I think potentially, if we do ever see a back three, it might be in Europe next season. That's if we play in Europe. And maybe play like a back five with a bit more protection at the back. So you can imagine 3 real good solid centre-backs with Leah Galton on the left-hand side of the wing-back, maybe Owen on the right-hand side of the wing-back, Hayley Ladd and somebody else sitting in front. Then all of a sudden you've got 7 players there trying to keep maybe like a 0-0 or scrape a 1-0 win. I think that's the only way I can potentially see Casey ever going to a back 3 or a back 5. Just because we've never seen it, and that's not really the Man United way, and it doesn't seem to be the case of Stoney way. And the amount of flair players that we've got, it may not suit us. But Matt, let's start off with yourself with that question. Can you ever see a player back 3?
No, I'm going to say no. I don't. The thing is, I mean, we don't change formation anyway, because I've been saying for years about dropping the 2 pivots and getting rid of this daft defensiveness that we kind of sometimes do. But I think you need the personnel, and that's not anything against the players we've got. But I think an actual proper wing back. I mean, listen, we'd all prefer Leah going forward, wouldn't we? As good as she was at the back, And I think a lot will depend on obviously if Tobin and Kristen are still extending. Because can you imagine if let's say Tobin extends and then where do we fit Ona in if Tobin's asked to be a wing back, which she isn't? It's hard because it's like it's your personnel. And I mean, without dropping transfer rumours and things, if people leave and people come in and it's like, where do you fit them? And we've got so many sort of midfield type players now, obviously with this new player coming in as well. It's like, I don't know. Listen, I'm all for changing and trying things, but I think if you've got the personnel, I think for me, it'd be more you'd see sort of an Owner and a Smithy, which, because they get up and down, they'd be suited to it. But then it's like, you can't drop Leah. So, it's one of them where it's difficult because of sort of your attacking and going forward. But yeah, I'd be surprised. I mean, listen, she might drop a surprise one day. We might see, a back 3. But personally, next season, I wouldn't think she'd risk it, especially if the fullbacks are going too high, because we'll get absolutely killed by somebody like a Leon in the Champions League.
Jake, your thoughts on a potential change of formation with a different personnel that we might bring in?
Yeah, well, I'm all for experimentation. I would like to see it maybe in a game, but Casey doesn't do that. Casey's very much set in her ways, set in her tactics. We all know the formation she's going to play. It's just usually a case of personnel and who's got to play in that formation. But yeah, I think the only time I've actually seen Casey boldly experiment was when she played something like a 4-2-2-2 against Brighton away last season. It didn't work. It was, I admire the effort, but that night, the less said, the better. So, Casey knows what formation works for us. The players are drilled into that formation. And I honestly think, as much as you'd like to see them try something different, I don't think something different will work. They're so drilled into the current formation. It's almost as if they're robots programmed to play like that. I don't really like that. But I'm not complaining. It works.
Yeah, it works. And it's exciting. It's exciting because of the wing play. We all love to see our wingers play, the way that they are. I think they sometimes the only irritation or frustration more than frustration more than anything is the fact that sometimes the transition from midfield to attack is sometimes something's blocking it, so we don't get as much chances as maybe we should, or this, that, and the other. But that I wouldn't go doing anything too crazy to get that. That's just either the personnel or maybe the style of play that we play in the middle of the park or something like that. So for me, the four defenders, 3 midfielders, 3 attackers, that to me works. There's a question, Matt, that you had from Emma from the Man City fancast who appeared on the show last month about, was it Jane Ross? I don't want Jake to kind of answer this one, please.
Yeah, so she was basically saying, obviously, we've seen Abby McManus, who's an experienced player, go out for a loan move to guarantee playing time. She said Jane Ross hasn't featured as much at all for United. We've kind of seen little return since she's come in. And she wants to know, what do we think is the answer to get the best out of her, basically? So, obviously, I'm sure she's still under contract next year. I'm sure when she signed, she got a 3-year deal. So potentially, if she stays in the summer, we'll have got her next season. So yeah, Jake, what do you think is the answer to getting the best out of Jane?
It's a tough one. It really is. It's been said before that maybe she doesn't suit our style of play. Look, anyone who knows me knows I'm a massive fan of Jane Ross. I've been watching her play, score goals, beat teams with Scotland for years. And it's a shame because it's not happened for her at United. Whether she'll have the chance to change that, I don't know. But she's not been the striker that we needed, that we wanted. And I hate to say that because she's had glimpses of that. She's had moments when she's got in the right positions and scored a goal or two, but it's been nothing more than that. So she could get a chance to turn it around. I think the difference is when we break quickly. You've got your fast players. You've got Leah and Kirsty on the wings. You've got Jackie who can pick out the ball. You've got players who can run up and latch onto a pass. Jane is getting on a bit now. Let's not forget that she's past her prime. She's still got a good few years left in her, but she's not a quick player. She never has been a quick player. She's been a very much in the box and finish player, and I don't think that suits our style completely. So it could just be a case of a chance falling to a right place, right time. But I struggle to see how how she can have a future as being a striker that is in the team every week, if you know what I'm saying. At the moment behind Kristen and Alessia, when she comes back, I can't see her getting in front of them.
John Fry pretty much agrees with what you just said there about not suited to our style of play. Just got a few more questions to go through before we go to our competition. Matt, if you want to jump on this one here. Carl Thornton from Twitter has asked Amy T to USA. Go on, you tell the story first where that question has come from, and then we'll obviously give our opinion on it.
Yeah, so Amy T's fiance, Angred James, obviously I've read in. Contract expires in the summer. She's off to North Carolina Courage. Good signing that for them. I think she'll enjoy it out there. It's a different league. And I think what people took the wrong way was that Amy joked about it and said, "Oh, I didn't know you were off." I saw that on Twitter, and she's like, "Oh, you didn't tell," something along the lines of "You didn't tell me," or "Oh, what's this? I didn't know." And I don't know whether people's kind of missed the joke or kind of taken it literally, but yeah, no, I think Amy will be absolutely fine. Anyway, somebody's got a dog sit. I was saying this the other day. I think it was to Robert. And I was saying, that poor dog, it needs a bit of love. Somebody's going to have to watch out for it. But no, I think Amy's settled. I mean, I don't know. She signed a contract. Was it last year? For a couple of years? I don't know. Anyway, a contract's not due this summer, from what I believe. Anyway, but no, I think Amy's happy. They're settled here. I think, she'll probably go out, a partner that is, to America for a season, maybe. Possibly come back, maybe 2 seasons. Who knows? But I'd be surprised if Amy went out there now. I think Amy's approaching 30, so coming to the peak of her career. I think, considering her injury past, I think she'll be absolutely buzzing to stay with us and play Champions League. And I think, I'd be surprised if she jumped to America. But I mean, listen, who knows? There's always shocks, isn't there, in the transfer window? There you go. Robert says 2 years with an option.
Yeah.
So, no, she'll be staying. I'm pretty confident that she'll still be with us come next season.
Amy Turner's biggest fan, John Fry, thinks yes, she will go to America. I can't see it happening, to be honest. I'll be very surprised. Obviously, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but I'll be very surprised because she looks so happy here, and especially this season, forcing her way into the starting 11. Look, we don't know what's going to happen, do we? We don't know what Amy wants out of her life, but to me, that would be a massive surprise if that was to happen. Natalie and John Neville all saying no to Amy T. Yeah, I think we more be. I think it's more probably hope more than anything, but no, I think there's. I don't know. I think that would be very surprising.
I think the thing is as well for me. I mean, I'd have had her as captain, once Greenwood left, but I think there is potential. I mean, people are talking about would Zellum go with a midfielder coming in. Let's say that happened, for example, for me, Amy T's your captain, so that might be an incentive for her as well to stay, depending on what happens with Katie or other players.
Yeah. Jake, do you want to just jump in on that one? Your thoughts on Amy T?
Yeah, definitely. Amy's one of those players that I never thought might leave, but seeing the news the other day, and Harrod James over to the US, North Carolina, Courage. It slightly worried me. Now, Amy T, based on this season, 100% she's got to be with us next season. 100%. I think she's been, I can't say best defender, I said that about Honor, but she's been throwing her body on the line, so many times. She's been a key defender, crunching tackles. She's someone who I never want to leave. I don't think she always gets the recognition. However, football scouts see this, and there is a possibility that someone in the US has also seen this, so you don't know. You really don't know. But you look at footballers. I mean, you saw Pernilla Harder come over to Chelsea recently to join her partner, Magdalena Eriksson. So it does happen in the women's game, unfortunately. However, the thing I will say, that there are examples of, players not moving to their partners' clubs. So fingers crossed that Amy is still a United player next season.
Definitely, fingers crossed on that one. Or else that means we have to bring in 2 centre-backs, and they have to be better than Amy Turner to justify.
Short in supply as it is, John. Don't bring in more. Struggling to get one.
This is going to be a long show, by the way, guys. So
Keep them going.
We asked for the questions, so thank you very much for sending them in to us. Vix from Twitter saying that we're lacking in the link-up play. Who's our best number 10 at the moment to potentially do that? Now, I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier. I think Tooney's been fantastic this season as a number 10. Jake, we haven't heard much. We haven't obviously spoke that much on all 3 United. So let me just let you kind of talk a little bit about our number 10 position and how well you think our attacking midfielders have done this season. Just have a little talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Tooney's been a player who's been, right place, right time, so many times this season. If you look at a game, I wouldn't pinpoint Tooney and say she's been brilliant in a full 90 minutes, but when it matters, she performs. She will score a goal. She'll create that chance. She's been so influential going forward, and that's something that I think we're seeing much more of this season than last season. You look at all other options. You got Ivana Fuso, who's said to be, naturally a number 10. She's not. She's young. She's got a bright future ahead of her. She's not had the game time. She's not had enough game time to actually judge her. The other one, the obvious one, will be LJ. It's just an injury-plagued season for her. I do feel sorry for LJ because we've seen how good she's been. She carried the team at times last season. She did, but. Yeah, she's had a few injuries now. Not had a lot of chances to shine. I think the moment that sticks out for everyone is the goal against Chelsea, and that was just a glimpse of the quality she possesses. So it's a shame. It's definitely a shame that we've not seen much of LJ. However, I think in LJ's absence, it's given Tooney this chance to step up, to score, be the key player in the situations. Like you think back to the goal against Arsenal, massive goal. You think back to the comeback when we were 2-1 down to Birmingham. Tooney played an influential part in that. So, in a sense, as much as I hate to see LJ sidelined, Tooney is grabbing this opportunity with both hands. And look, she's ended up in the England squad. She made an England debut, and that's the thing. When you get the chance and you take it, good things happen. And I'd love to see Tooney keep getting better, and maybe put in a performance like Jackie, where she's all over the pitch, she's making these passes and tackles. At the moment, she's scoring the goals, she's creating, she's racking up the assists as well. Yeah, I'd love to just be a bit more all-rounder as well.
And I'm sure that'll come in a game. Obviously, Matt, you know quite well. We always laugh at that because I see Matt start laughing when I say that. But we have seen her on the right wing this season as well, haven't we? So for me, I think she's come on leaps and bounds. When you consider that she wasn't even a starter last season, and this season she is, you know, to keep either Jackie or Katie out of the team, it shows that she's done something right this season. And the centre midfield hasn't really changed from last season to this season, apart from maybe Lucy Stan coming in. And to me, she still managed to find a way in there. So, yeah, I would probably say, in answer to the question, I probably would say that Tooney is our best number 10 so far. Is that all the questions? I just want to double check. Oh, there's one more from Mark Stanyard before we go to the competition. Matt, if you just want to take this one before we go to the competition. When fans can come back into the stadiums, what do you think we can do to encourage fans back into stadiums, i.e. ticket prices, or do we want to involve the men's stadiums?
I think in terms of ticket prices, I mean, looking at it from sort of my own personal perspective, I think, you know, 5, 6, 7 quid isn't that bad. I think the kind of the prices, and it's been this for a while as far as I've known, you know, prices are brilliant. I think in terms of getting people in, I'd like to think, because we've all been football starved for 12 months. I said this the other day. I think you'll see, you know, better attendances again. I really do. I think people have missed it that much. And it's like, as we talked about the other day, John, I said it's good for a family. If you're a family of 4 or 5, it's massively affordable. I think the bit where it's lacking is one, promotion of it. And, you know, if we're sort of involving talk of men's teams, I think the men's team should be promoting it. I wouldn't say necessarily jumping straight to their grounds, because I wouldn't like, you know, especially we look at ours and we think 2,000 people in a 75, 80,000 seater stadium, you're not going to hear any noise. I prefer it, you know, sort of packed in and vocal in a small stadium. I think the other thing is as well, and I know it's lacking at United, and this is something we talked about with Barmy Army, there's not a great deal of sort of fan zone activity things. I mean, United do a little cafe thing and Fred the Red Rocks up, but I think back to the very, very first game, the Reading game, there was like magicians, there was entertainers, there was all sorts. I think something we've kind of discussed between us and sort of had ideas that we've put to the club are, you know, can we make it more of a match day atmosphere, especially aimed at children, you know, get them involved and sort of really get future fans. I think that's across the women's game in general. I know other clubs that I've seen when we've been like on away trips, etc., have kind of had things going on, activities. But I think at the moment, for me, the pricing's right. And I think the stadiums that we're all in are right, because until they're packed out weekly, there's no point moving. I think LSV's, 11, 12,000 when full. So, yeah, I think at the moment, you know, getting fans back shouldn't be an issue. I think it just comes down to really just promotion. And then obviously bearing in mind Sky next year, working in sensible kickoff times and not ones that are an inconvenience. Because I know, again, there's a lot of kids' grassroots football on a Sunday, and we kick off at 12, which is Casey's choice, but it does make it very difficult if a kid kicks off at 10 o'clock to then get over and get everybody to leave. So I think it's everybody's responsibility, really, kind of promote and keep going with your ticket prices. For me, they're brilliant. So, yeah, that's the way we go for me.
Jake, your thoughts on that one about getting people into stadiums? I mean, to be honest, this is like a separate show in itself, isn't it? But maybe that's something we can do in the future. But Jake, just your thoughts on that one?
Honestly, we go into so much detail about this.
Yeah,
so much detail about how the promotion is, how the stereotype around the women's game is, and how it needs to change, how clubs promote and support their women's teams. Oh gosh, you can talk for ages. I'll try and sum it up. Try. Women's teams need to be taken more seriously, absolutely, by the men's team, by fans in general, really, by fans of clubs in general. You know, you look at the fans of any men's team, men's equivalent of a WSL team. It'd be great to see a few more of them get down, create a bit of an atmosphere, nothing too toxic, but an atmosphere nonetheless, to make it feel like a proper football match, not just an event, not just like a party event for the family to go to or whatever. You know, it needs to appeal to all people, not just a certain. I feel like women's football is very much targeted at a certain audience right now, and it's been that way for so long. And yeah, it's got to where it is now. Fair enough, but to progress, I feel like the target audience has got to change. Matt made a great point about fans being football starved. So when the gates open, fans will stream in. I completely agree with that one. So that's something. It's just about keeping them. And that's been a major issue for a few seasons now. The whole let's play game in the men's stadium and hope for the best hasn't really worked. You haven't seen attendances shoot up afterwards. So yeah, build a fan base, keep appealing to the proper football fans who are vocal, who will go and support their team. As if the word tribalism comes up a lot, doesn't it? I mean, encourage that a bit more. Nothing too toxic. No, none of this idea of we want to fight the other fans, but a bit more rivalry, a bit more atmosphere.
I think you summed it up well, and I agree with that last point that you made 100%. Yeah, let's just work with other fans to grow the game, but obviously that tribalism is massive, isn't it? Especially with United, because we want to be the best, don't we? It's as simple as that, and we aim to be the best. Ugly Bear says, why don't MUWFC play live games at Old Trafford? I just think it would be a little bit empty with an average attendance of 2,200 in a 70,000 seat stadium. Maybe one game, but don't forget the one that happened at the Etihad. Over 30,000 fans turned up. How many turned up to the next game? Hardly anyone moved over, did they, to the women's stadium? So is it pointless? Maybe one. I could understand maybe one game just to kind of build the hype, but it's not sustainable, is it? It's as simple as that. That's probably it. Let's move on to Matt for tonight's competition. So for those of you who are new to the channel, I can see quite a few views tonight and a few new faces and people in the comments. All for United last month teamed up with Football Town. Football Town is a website that sells merchandise, football apparel, and they're helping us reach 3,000 subscribers. At the end of this month, we're going to draw a name out the hat. And the way to get into the hat is to get into, obviously, the prize draw by answering our question on each show. The first 5 names with the correct answer we'll put into the draw, and then, obviously, hopefully, your name will be pulled out. So, Matt, you've got the question tonight, haven't you? What is it, mate?
Who is our all-time leading goal scorer for Man United women? So, whole 3 seasons, or 2.5 if we're not counting last season, who's the all-time leading goal scorer? Whilst we wait for comments, John, a question that was sent to me, and this was a general WSL, and I'll let you both answer this. It was asking, who do we think is the surprise team of the season in the WSL, and who is the biggest underachievers? So I think, John, do you want to go first and sort of give me one team for surprise and maybe a couple of reasons, and the same for underachievers, and then we'll move on to Jake as well?
I think for me, probably Everton started off the season really well, so that kind of like surprised me a little bit. I know that they had a good summer anyway, but they were up there for the short amount of time at one point. So I'll probably say Everton, maybe even Reading. I was expecting a bit more of them, but maybe they're coming back a little bit now. So for me, I probably was expecting a bit more of Reading, and maybe Everton kind of took me by surprise about their start and maybe how they could end the season as well. But I'll pass this on to Jake, because Jake knows a little bit more than I do regarding the WSL. Yeah,
well, I'm going to look at the other end of the table. But you look, John, you made some valid points there about Reading and Everton, but I'm going to look towards the bottom. Surprise package. I think a lot of WSL fans will be in agreement. Birmingham, at the start of the season, I wasn't the only one who said Birmingham would get relegated. Their fans didn't even know if they would have a team to compete in the season just a few weeks before it all kicks off. They were struggling. Finances, I don't know what's going on there. But all the best players left. Obviously, Lucy Staniforth, one of them, came to us. They were struggling, and it's been something that's been happening for the last 2 years. A real sad decline for Birmingham. But Carla Ward, fair play to her. She's come in. She's got the players together. A very, very thin squad. Sometimes only naming 2 or 3 substitutes. Got them together, and she's doing a good job with them. Currently either 7th or 8th in the table, I want to say. Not got it in front of me. But yeah, got some good points on the board. Now, surely looking like they'll stay up come the end of the season. And it's still a long way to go. So job done in terms of Carla Ward's miracle, if you like. Now, the biggest disappointment, if you like, or underachiever, West Ham. I've got nothing against West Ham, but you look at the players. There's some top names in that team. They brought in some good big names as well. You know, look at Van Egmond. You look at Kenza Darley. You look at Gilly Flaherty, who's been in the women's game for so long. It's just not happening for them at all, and they're in a relegation battle, which is it's shocking, really. You know, they're only a matter of points off Bristol, who have been absolutely dire. And even drew against them. You know, West Ham, you look at the players, they should be doing so much better than they are. They've struggled the last 2 seasons, but this season has been dreadful for them. Absolutely dreadful. They should be doing a lot better. They've lost the manager, Matt Beard, and I think he's a decent manager. Funnily enough, he has now gone to relegation rivals Bristol. He's not done a bad job so far there. West Ham, things need to start coming together for them, or they will get relegated. Maybe not this season, or next season, maybe.
Yeah, I will go with that as well, actually, from what he just said there. And I think Nat would probably jump in there and talk about Birmingham as well, because we know how much of a fan she is of their manager. I don't know why. I mean, Matt, have you got an opinion on that one before we move on?
Well, I mean, it's the same as Jake's, exactly the same. I think, I was the same, and apologies to Birmingham fans now. I had Birmingham for the relegation, just based on the fact that, no players, looking at academy players, they've no budget. But, again, it comes down to, what have they got, 11, 12, 13 players all working hard for each other, trusting the manager who's come in and done a fantastic job, and with very little money and very little time. I think, let's not forget, was it a week maybe before the season started? And they were like, God knows how many players short. They must have had about 7 or 8. And I think to turn that round, to get them players to gel, a couple of great loans in there, and they're looking at decent aspects. And, again, like Jake said, West Ham, there's been players leaving in January. They've just lost the best player for me. Alicia Lehman has gone. Still got Adriana Leon, and they've still got a squad that should be capable of doing better. And I think they're in a very big danger. I can see Bristol now, having potentially written them off like I did back over Christmas time. I think I can see Bristol now turning it around. I really can. I think you look at West Ham's fixtures, and they've still got to. I mean, we've got to play, and we've got to play Reading, Everton, Man City, Chelsea. You're thinking, where's the points coming from? They now need to pretty much beat Villa and beat Birmingham and hope that Bristol aren't picking up points to stand a chance. And I think looking at even Bristol's games, they've got a run in where, they can easily pick up a couple of points. And I think, again, disappointing from West Ham. I think whatever went on with Matt Baird, I think for me it was more maybe the players, not giving him as much as they could and maybe throwing him under the bus a little bit, because if you look at that Bristol team now, it looks a happy place, it looks organised, and I think, now if I was a West Ham fan, I'd be very, very worried about potentially, ending up in the Championship next season.
We're going to extend the show just a little bit. Hopefully you guys can stick with us, because there's still quite a few views and a few people watching, and we've got a couple of more topics to talk about. First of all, the Hull's just popped on. In answer to your question, we will just quickly repeat it. Regarding the most underrated player of the season, I think we went for Owen Battle, Hayley Ladd, and Jackie Ronan. So I think that was the answer to your question, mate. So thank you for popping on. And I can just see something in the comments that just made me laugh. And I've lost it. Oh, there we go. Tunes. I think the only other person I've heard call the Tunes is Millie. I'm sure Millie Turner called the Tunes. I don't think I've heard anybody else call Tunes. So that just reminded me of Millie Turner. Look, we're going to swiftly move on. Tooney and Hansen are on the actual thumbnail, so both scoring their first international goal. Just wanted to hear your thoughts on that, Jake. Obviously, both fantastic players. Kirsty Hansen's got her new contract, 3-year contract as well, I believe it was. We're all massive fans on this channel, and I'm sure you're a big fan as well. But just your thoughts on, let's just say your thoughts on how their career's going, the fact that they're playing for the countries and now scoring goals as well.
Yeah, look, Tooney and Hansen, two very, very inexperienced in a way, and no disrespect in saying that, but young players with a lot to experience, a lot to gain in the women's game. Great careers ahead of them, definitely. And I think both of them Kirsty Hansen, it wasn't a debut, was it? She's played a few games now for Scotland, but her first goal, great to see. A very well taken goal as well, can I say? Okay, you question the quality of the opposition. Yes, it was Cyprus. Yes, it was 10-0, but nonetheless, it was a good goal. So Kirsty, look, she's put in some good performances for us. Never been a standout performer, but look, she's in a team with superstars at times. She can't always be the headline grabber. But she does the job for us, and the fact that Casey's given her a 3-year extension says a lot about the faith and the development. Tooney, look, I've touched on her this season. She's really shone through. She's made that number 10 role her own, and now she's knocking on the door of the England squad. She's got in there, albeit for a friendly, so it might have been a case of let's give some players a chance. But she has a chance now in the next few years as the transition goes, as some players retire and move on. As she gets older, she can really cement her place in the national team.
Matt, your thoughts on their international goals?
Yeah, I mean, we touched on it, didn't we, on our Twitter Live the other day, me, you and Ben, but I think Jake's covered it there. I mean, he'll obviously know more about the Scotland national team than me, but it does seem to be, from what I can see from the outside, ageing, so to speak. So I think, again, what's Kirsty, 21, maybe 22? Similar age to Tooney anyway. I think there's years ahead of them too. Yeah, I think, Casey talks a lot about their willingness to learn and their work rate in terms of training and putting in extra shifts. And I think for me, attitude for me can take you very, very far. Talent's one thing, but if you've not got the mindset and the attitude to work, then you'll find yourself out the door at Man United, certainly. And I think what's good about them too is that they are willing, I know conversations with Tooney privately that, last season she didn't get the minutes she wanted and she felt she deserved more, but she's gone away and she's worked at it. And, again, credit to, maybe even similar for Hansen, credit to both of them for really sticking at it. And, we've seen it. We saw a very good goal, like Jake said, by Kirsty Hansen. And Tooney got penalty, scored a goal, debut for England, happy days. I think this year is obviously better, I think, for Tooney than obviously last season, but then season 1 championship, she was outstanding. So, yeah, happy that we've got both going forward and good things to come.
One more topic, and it was the standout moments across the 3 seasons. Now, for me, I think this is a big subject and I don't want to gloss over it. So I think I'd like to hear Jake's kind of thoughts on this, and then me and Matt can maybe do it at a separate time. And then I think Matt's just got some questions as well. One more question. Okay, so what we'll do is, Jake, your standout moments of the journey so far. So not just this season, when you cast your mind back over the 2.5 seasons that we've had already. Maybe what's your standout goals, home wins or away wins? It might not even be wins. I mean, I'm not going to give mine away. But one of my standout moments was actually a win. Yeah, Jake, what's your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think the personal one for me is the first away game that I went to first season, Everton away, at the wonderful place they call Southport. It was a good night in the sense that this was the Conti Cup against Everton. This was our first real test against the WSL team. You take out the first ever game we had against Liverpool, the first game since reforming. This was our first real test happening. We were winning week in, week out in the Championship. We had just lost to Durham. We needed to bounce back. And Everton were struggling in the WSL at the time, but it was still higher opposition at the end of the day. We went out that night and we performed. We did so well. 3 goals away to book our place in the next round of the Conti Cup. It was Leah Golson came to life that night as well. I think that was the game where people's heads turned and thought, this Leah Golson, she's going to be something special. But yeah, it was a great night. I think 21, 22 of us in the terrace behind the goal. Yeah, it was just a great night. And I look back now, I just think, yeah, we've come a long way as a fan group since then. As a team, definitely. But yeah, special night that. Other highlights, of course, you've got to say winning the league, the 5-0 against Lewis on that day. Just a big party atmosphere, great turnout attendance-wise at LSV as well. Yeah, solid day there. What else? I think obviously beating City 2-0 in the Conti Cup was nice. Let's be honest, they had an off day. We were lucky in the sense that they had an off day, but we did everything right then. We've not beat them since, so it'd be good to repeat that one day. But yeah, very, very good performance that day. And yeah, they're the top 3 moments, I think.
Liverpool as well, Jake. Chuck that one in there.
Look, LJ's goal against Liverpool. Just forget the whole game. LJ's goal, you know, the game up to that point. She scored. Everyone went wild. Yeah, just that goal on its own.
I could carry this conversation on, but I think it deserves a bit more of a bigger show. But yeah, there's so many memories, aren't there, for so many different reasons as well. I mean, you could talk about different grounds that mean much to you as well. For example, Birmingham for you, Jake, wouldn't mean much to you perhaps, but for me, it's my local team. So a Birmingham away fixture for me, and I can't wait until there is an Aston Villa away day in the Warsaw in Warsaw, because that's pretty much the town where I grew up. So everything means something to somebody, doesn't it, as well? Apart from obviously the classic moments like the LJ goals. But I'm going to leave that conversation there. Matt, the final question that you've got is what?
Oh, it's controversial. How long have we got? No, chuck it out there. I mean, I know the answer already, but it says, do we want VAR in the women's game? I mean, listen, I could keep that short and sweet and just say no. But I think I'll provide some reasoning. I think VAR just infuriates me in the men's. I think, you know, this whole, just everything about it, the daft offsides that we're getting, I think they said, it was there to assist the referee, and it doesn't. It just seems to overrule them for me. So I think for me, it's a big no-go. I think it just kills the game, doesn't it? Have you scored? Have you not? Can you celebrate? Can you not? And it gets ridiculous as the weeks go on. I know the men's, you know, pundits and players hate it. I think if we are making one change, seeing as we're not getting these professional referees, I think for me, goal line technology. I think, you know, we've been shafted twice, I think maybe. Definitely once. I remember that FA Cup game against City when Abby Mack's goal crossed the line by, God knows, 2-3 yards. So I think, if anything, I think goal line technology would be improvement. I understand the question was asked actually last year to the FA, and as usual, costing was an issue, as it always is with the FA. If you're asking for money, the answer is no. So but I think, you know, VAR for me is a massive no. I just hate it. I can see already in the comments, but cautious of time, so I'll let you and Jake chuck your views across. But the definite no from me.
The thing that comes to my mind is what Molly Hudson put out a couple of weeks ago when we spoke about it on our podcast. I think it was last week, from what Joanna Stimson, I think that's the name, Stimson says. Look, if we can't even get better referees and we haven't got the money to invest in that, then I think VAR's not even talking about it. I do agree with John Fry about goal line technology, which obviously
we'll be all for that.
I get that, because obviously just the very important decisions, is it a goal or not?
Yeah.
But again, I just feel like we're so far away from this kind of thing. I'll move it on to yourself, Jake.
Yeah, VAR, it's so far, the debate and conversation about VAR in the women's game is so far away. Like, you look at WSL, yeah, they say it's a professional league. Well, you're not getting the professional recs. You're attracting worldwide talent, you know. Sam Kerr came over for Chelsea. You've had all these American signings in. You're getting these world-class names coming to this league. Yeah, you've not got great referees. Okay, let's cut them some slack. Yeah, if you're not going to get professional referees, you're not going to get goal line technology. VAR is another conversation completely. Hypothetically, if we were in a position where VAR could come in, no. And I think good proof for that is the Women's World Cup, where they use that as like the trial in the women's game. Oh God, what a mess that tournament was! What a mess it was. You know, at the end of the day, referees are going to make mistakes sometimes. Not major mistakes, but if a player has a knee out of place or an arm maybe or whatever, it's a natural thing. Yeah. Well, natural mistakes. You hear the term clear and obvious and whatever, but yeah, VAR is taking it to literally centimeters to millimeters. It's too much. I think football cannot be perfected in the sense of decision making, and it would just be too much. I'm enjoying it for as long as it exists without VAR. We look at the men's game, and the reason why I wanted to use the Women's World Cup as an example is that was the women's game with VAR. It didn't work for me. I'm sorry, it did not work. My opinion. And for as long as the WSL doesn't have VAR, I'm happy.
I think relating back to that as well, I'm convinced, I'm sure, unless I've dreamt it, there was an Ellen White goal chalked off against, was it USA that should have stood and they ruled it out from VAR? And they said something like a fingernail or something was offside. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, that was the offside one. And then she had the one against Sweden, which was a handball, which would never have been spotted. Never have been spotted.
I know. Crazy.
Too. Yeah, go on.
No, I was just adding to your point about, like you said, because obviously that's something that stuck out for me, and I'm convinced I read it for happening for the Women's Euros in England. I'm hoping not, and I'm hoping I'm wrong on that. But no, I just not a fan. Kills tournaments, let alone the league, and I just think we, like people said in the comments, if we get any extra money, or not that if they decide to put their hands in the pockets, for me, I agree, it's got to go with refs. We're looking at 3 years, so if we get any money before 3 years, any Sky money that they might want to share or invest, put it in goal line tech if you're not doing it in your refs, for me.
Or stadiums. We just had so many stadiums that could be upgraded.
And pitches as well, facilities. That's a whole nother show as well, John.
We go all night.
Well, we nearly have hour and 15 minutes. Look, thank you to everybody who stayed on and who's popped in and off. Thank you very much. The start of the show, we obviously mentioned Mary's contract extension. That's a massive talking point. Obviously, Man United player staying even longer. It's just worth mentioning just one last time, Matt. Just spend a couple of minutes just talking about the highlights of the start of the show. Who's rumoured to join us and what's she all about? If you wouldn't mind, Matt, just a couple of minutes, just reiterating the point at the start of the show. What the breaking news is today, please.
Yeah, so breaking news from, Norway first, and then our own journalists kind of added to it, is Vilde Bo-Riise coming in from, she's a free agent, was formerly of Göteborg in Sweden. Defensive midfielder, can be box to box, so she can sort of play defensive midfield, central midfield. Man United fan, turned down Lyon and Real Madrid to wait to come to Man United. We believe that she's either over or on her way, obviously because she's got a quarantine period. So we're hoping Arsenal come and flatten a few of their players whilst she's at it with Hayley. But new signing that can start straight away. That's needed for competition for places. Like I mentioned earlier in the show, may not be fully fit yet, but listen, that's fine. Give her a bit of time because obviously Staniforth is still working her way back as well. But good signing. Somebody that's played Champions League, somebody that's experienced. She's 25 as well, so she's got absolutely ages in terms of her career. There's not too much more I can add really until it's absolutely finalised and done. But from what everybody's saying, some very good, respectable journalists in Norway that have kind of said, it's there and thereabouts, it's done. Something about her agent knows Solskjaer as well, and there was talks in summer. So, good times really. Like I say, a signing that can sort of come in straight away is always, it's better, I think, for her as well as the team because summer's the one where you can be one of many signings coming in. And I think, the quicker you can kind of get to know your teammates and gel towards the league now, then it'll stand us in good stead for next season. Like we talked about, we want to see competition for places. We've not got a big squad. We fall apart without Hayley. So, another defensive midfielder or somebody that can play box-to-box central midfield that's a very good passer and just as physical as, Hayley is fantastic. So, roll on. Well, hopefully Arsenal when she plays. We'll see.
Cracking show. Thanks to everybody who participated in Twitter, giving us all those questions. We tried to get as much in as we could. Jake, if anybody wants to get hold of you, where can people find you?
My Twitter name is somewhere. There we go. _ Jake Lowe. Often tweeting about the women and whatever, and replying to stuff. You'll see me pop up here and there.
Thanks for coming back on. I know it's been about 3 months or so since you've been back on, but no, thank you. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and obviously it's great to have you on, someone who knows a little bit about women's football in general as well, not just Man United. So it's always a breath of fresh air to learn off other fans. Plan for this week. So what day is it today? Friday. So still getting my head around everything that's going on. Saturday, tune into Ben and Matt show on so it'll be live on our Twitter account. All for United WFC, so you can watch it live on Twitter. Sunday isn't a show. Monday.
Sunday's when the schedule is going to come out, John.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Monday.
I think Natalie's going to be back Monday. We're going to be previewing the Villa game with a Villa supporter. So really looking forward to that one. Obviously, Matt and Ben will hopefully both be there as well. So lots to look forward to, and even more shows next week that we're penciling in, just getting some final details. So as always, we're looking at getting a show out every night going forward, whether it be on YouTube or live on Twitter. So I think that's what we can do. So that's the plans going forward. Thank you to everybody in the comments. Matt, if someone wants to find you, what's your Twitter?
Yeah, on screen as usual, at MattCrane15. And like you said, Tuesday, I know Natalie's back as well with yourself and Gareth. I'm not going to talk too much on that. We've got a sort of specialist appreciation show. That's on our Twitter live. So obviously keep an eye out for that. Again, comments, I believe a couple of people may be struggling. If you click on the actual video for that, and I'll explain all this on Sunday with the schedule, you can get involved via Twitter for comments, because I know a couple said they were struggling. But yeah, keep an eye out this week. I know we've got Monday, Tuesday. We've got a show Thursday as well. So yeah, lots to look forward to. And like I say, Sunday, All for United will put out a schedule that'll be pinned. So if anyone's looking for topics or struggling for something, give us a shout. We'll more than help point you in the right direction of things, or technical difficulties as well. We'll try and work with you. So yeah, tune in. And as always, thanks for the support.
Thank you, Matt. We're going to call the show, call it a night now. But thank you to everybody, and we will see you again soon.